This presentation explores folklore and cultural beliefs that some viewers may find disturbing. The themes discussed involve death and the supernatural. Viewer discretion is advised. Imagine you're on a dark, lonely road in the mountains of rural China. The air is cold, the moon is a sliver in the sky. And then you hear it. A sound that doesn't belong. Not footsteps. Not the rustle of an animal. It's a rhythmic, heavy thud. 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 It's getting closer. Out of the ink-black shadows, a figure emerges. It's dressed in the ornate silk robes of a Qing dynasty official, but the clothes are tattered and stained with grave dirt. Its skin has a sickly, greenish-white pallor, like moldy parchment. Its arms are stretched out in front of it, rigid fingers curled into stiff claws. And it isn't walking. It's hopping. Each jump is a jarring, unnatural movement, its body stiff as a board. Its face is a frozen mask, eyes wide and unblinking. It doesn't see you, but it senses you. It smells your breath, your life, your warmth. This is the Jiangshi, and it's a creature born from a historical reality so strange, so gruesome, that it blurs the line between folklore and a forgotten, terrifying truth. Forget everything you know about vampires. Forget Dracula in his Gothic castle, seducing his victims with a suave, aristocratic charm. Forget the shambling, groaning zombies of American horror, driven by a mindless hunger for brains. The Jiangshi is something else entirely. The name itself translates to stiff corpse. And that is exactly what it is. A reanimated body trapped in the unyielding grip of rigor mortis. This isn't a monster of supernatural transformation. It's a monster of failed transition. A soul that has not passed on, a body that has not fully decayed, caught in a nightmarish limbo between the living and the dead. And its most defining feature, the thing that has terrified generations, the hop, is a direct result of this condition. According to the lore, when a corpse is reanimated, the rigor mortis that has stiffened its limbs never fades. Its knees cannot bend. Its back cannot arch. The only way it can move is to jump, to hop. Its entire body a rigid plank propelled forward by a dark, unnatural energy. Its arms are stretched forward not just to attack but for balance. A dead, unthinking gyroscope trying to navigate the world of the living. But they also serve another purpose. The Jiangshi doesn't see with its eyes. It senses with its entire being. It's drawn to the breath of the living, to the vital life force the Chinese call qi. Its outstretched hands are like antennae, feeling for the warmth, the energy, the very essence of your life, which it seeks to steal and consume. Look closer at its attire. Why is it almost always depicted in the robes of a Qing dynasty official? This isn't a random fashion choice. It anchors the creature to a specific period in China's history, the last imperial dynasty, which ruled from the mid-17th century to the early 20th century. This was a time of immense social upheaval, of war, famine, and rebellion. Millions died far from home, their bodies left unburied or interred in temporary graves. The fear of dying an improper death, of being unable to return to your ancestral home for the correct burial rites, was a profound cultural terror. It was believed that such a soul could not rest, becoming a lonely ghost, full of resentment and anger. The Jiangshi, in its official's robes, becomes a symbol of this fallen authority, of a corrupted past, a restless spirit whose traditional world has been shattered, now rising from the grave to reclaim what it has lost, life itself. But there is a defense, a strange and specific one. Look at its forehead. In almost every depiction, you will see a yellow strip of paper, covered in red ink calligraphy. This is a sealing talisman, a prayer written by a Taoist priest. This small piece of paper is the creature's off switch. When placed on the Jiangshi's forehead, it freezes the creature in its tracks, paralyzing it, rendering it a harmless, if terrifying, statue of death. The talisman acts as a spiritual command, a holy injunction that the corrupted spirit within the corpse is forced to obey. But if the wind blows it off, or if its ink is smeared by rain, the creature awakens and its relentless, hopping hunt begins anew. So how does one become this creature? It's not as simple as a bite on the neck. The paths to becoming a Jiangshi are varied and deeply rooted in spiritual beliefs. A person who has been wrongly put to death may return, their spirit so consumed by a thirst for vengeance that it reanimates their own body to carry it out. A body that is not buried with the proper rites, or is buried in a place with bad spiritual energy, can become corrupted. Sometimes the cause is purely external. A bolt of lightning striking a coffin could jolt the corpse back to a semblance of life. Or in one of the most chilling beliefs, if a black cat, an animal often associated with the spirit world, were to leap over a coffin, its mystical energy could animate the body within. The terror of the Jiangshi is not just the fear of being attacked. It's a deeper, more primal fear. It is the horror of the unnatural, of the dead refusing to stay dead. It's the violation of the sacred boundary between life and death, the desecration of the human form, and the ultimate dread of a soul that cannot find peace. It is a physical manifestation of unresolved grief and lingering resentment. But now we return to that dark, unsettling question we started with. Is this just a story? A campfire tale to scare children? Or is there something more? For centuries, deep in the remote, mist-shrouded Jiangshi region of Hunan province, travelers reported seeing something that defied all logic. They spoke of priests, sorcerers of a sort, who would lead lines of the dead through the treacherous mountain passes at night. These corpses, sometimes a dozen or more, would be arranged in single file, each with their arms outstretched, resting on the shoulders of the one in front, and they would hop, in unison, a silent, macabre procession, guided by the light of a single lantern and the sound of a rhythmic gong, making their long final journey home. This practice was known as ganshi, or driving corpses. It was by all accounts a real profession, a service offered to transport the bodies of those who died far from home back to their families for a proper burial. But was it a genuine supernatural ritual, where Taoist magic truly reanimated the dead for one last trip? Or was it a brilliant, elaborate hoax, a clever illusion designed to frighten away bandits and navigate the difficult terrain? The answer to that question is where the story of the Jiangshi truly begins. It's a secret that lies buried in the history of these corpse drivers, a tradition that blended folklore, necessity, and a performance so convincing it gave birth to a legend. To understand the hopping vampire, we must first understand the chilling, real-world business of walking the dead home. The business was born from a simple, yet profound human need, the desire to go home, specifically to be buried at home. In the rugged, almost impassable mountains of Jiangshi province in western Hunan, this was more than a preference. It was a spiritual imperative. For the many migrant workers who left their remote villages to find work in the bustling towns and cities, the greatest fear was dying far from their ancestral soil. They believed that a soul who wasn't laid to rest with its ancestors would become a lonely, wandering ghost, never finding peace. But how do you transport a body back across hundreds of miles of treacherous, winding mountain paths, with no roads, no vehicles, and no refrigeration? The cost of a traditional coffin and a team of pallbearers was astronomical, far beyond the means of the average family. The solution was as ingenious as it was unsettling. It required a specialist, a man who walked the line between the living and the dead. They were called the Jiangshi, the corpse-driving masters. These were not sorcerers in the fantastical sense, but they were men of a very particular and demanding trade. To even be considered for an apprenticeship, a man had to meet three strange criteria. First, he had to be strong. This was obvious. The work was physically grueling. Second, he had to be ugly. The belief was that his intimidating appearance would help frighten away any malignant spirits or curious onlookers during the long, dark nights on the road. And third, perhaps most importantly, he had to be brave. Unflinchingly, unshakably brave, because his job was to spend weeks on end with only the dead for company, traveling through the darkest, most isolated parts of the country, where every shadow could hide a predator, human or otherwise. The apprenticeship was long and arduous. A master would take on a student, teaching him not just the physical techniques, but the all-important rituals and incantations. The student would learn how to read the terrain, how to navigate by the stars, and how to handle a corpse with the requisite respect and ritual purity. He learned which herbs could help slow decomposition, which talismans were needed to ward off evil, and which chants were to be spoken to pacify the spirit of the deceased. This was a guarded secret knowledge passed down from master to apprentice, a mix of practical know-how and deep-seated folk magic. When a family hired a corpse driver, the process began with a solemn preparation. The body of the deceased was carefully cleaned and dressed in fine burial robes. But this wasn't just about dignity. The driver would perform rituals to reanimate the body just enough for the journey. This wasn't true resurrection, of course, but a form of spiritual puppetry. Using cinnabar, a toxic mercury sulfide believed to have mystical properties, the master would paint Taoist talismans or fu, on yellow paper and affix them to the corpse's forehead. These were spiritual commands, meant to bind the soul to the body and compel it to follow his instructions. The body was then set upright, and the real work began. The most common method, and the one that directly gave birth to the hopping vampire legend, was the bamboo pole technique. Imagine this: 2 corpse drivers, a master and his apprentice. They take a long, flexible bamboo pole and place it on their shoulders. In the middle, the corpse is suspended. Its arms are raised and draped over the pole, and it's secured with ropes. Then a long dark robe is draped over the entire body from head to toe. From a distance, it creates a terrifying silhouette: a single tall figure with unnaturally long arms held out stiffly to the sides. Sometimes, to be more efficient, they would transport multiple bodies at once, all strung along the same pole, a silent, macabre procession. The journey itself was a clandestine affair, conducted almost exclusively under the cover of darkness. There were practical reasons for this. The cooler night air helped preserve the bodies, but more importantly, it was to avoid terrifying the living. The corpse driver at the front of the procession would strike a gong or ring a small handheld bell, creating a rhythmic, hypnotic sound that echoed through the silent mountain valleys. He would call out warnings into the night. "Strangers, make way for the dead. Let the living beware." This served as a chilling announcement. Anyone who heard it knew to immediately go inside, lock their doors, and avert their eyes. It was considered profoundly bad luck, a spiritual contamination, to look upon the procession of the dead. Even household pets like dogs and chickens were said to fall silent or flee in terror at their approach. This secrecy, this deliberate creation of an aura of fear and mystery, was part of the performance. It protected the drivers and their cargo, wrapping their grim business in a shroud of supernatural dread. And this is where the illusion becomes reality, where fact bleeds into folklore. As the 2 drivers walked in unison, their steady rhythmic steps caused the flexible bamboo pole to bounce. It would flex up and down with every stride, and the corpse, suspended in the middle, would bounce along with it. Covered by the long robe, its feet hidden from view, the body appeared to be hopping on its own. The stiff arms, the bouncing motion, the slow, relentless pace. To a terrified villager peeking through a crack in his door, lit only by the flickering glow of the driver's single lantern, it didn't look like 2 men carrying a body. It looked like a reanimated corpse, a dead man hopping his way home, guided by the chants and the bell of a powerful sorcerer. The entire operation was a masterpiece of practical engineering and psychological theater. Special inns, known as corpse motels, were set up along these routes. They were isolated, windowless buildings where the drivers could rest during the day. Inside, the corpses wouldn't be laid down. They would be propped upright against a wall, standing in a neat row, the talisman still on their foreheads, ready to resume their journey when night fell. The innkeepers were sworn to secrecy, part of this hidden network that facilitated the dead's final journey. Over generations, the stories grew. The line between the corpse driver and a true necromancer began to blur. Was he merely a skilled tradesman performing a necessary service? Or was he a master of the dark arts, commanding the dead with his bell and his paper charms? The hopping motion, born from the simple mechanics of a bouncing bamboo pole, became the defining characteristic of this new, emerging monster. The corpse was no longer a passive passenger. In the terrified imagination of rural China, it was an active participant. It was becoming something else, something unnatural, something hungry. The practical, real-world business of walking the dead home had planted a seed of terror, and from that seed, the Jiangshi, the hopping vampire, was beginning to sprout. The corpse was no longer just going home for burial, it was coming back for the living. But this new creature, this reanimated horror, was far more than just a body being led home. It was a predator, and like any predator, it has a distinct profile, a set of terrifying characteristics that, for centuries, have been passed down in hushed warnings. If you want to survive an encounter, you first have to know what you're looking at. The image burned into the collective consciousness is unmistakable. It's a figure, often male, dressed in the formal, elaborate robes of a Qing dynasty official. The clothes are dark, ornate, and eerily well-preserved. A round-topped hat sits on its head, a symbol of a bureaucracy and an empire that no longer exists. Its skin is pale, sometimes with a greenish or grayish tint, stretched taut over bone. The flesh is cold, unnaturally so, and its fingernails have grown into long blackened claws, sharp enough to tear through wood and flesh with equal ease. Its hair is often long and unkempt, and in some of the more terrifying tales, a fine layer of white or green mold grows on its skin, a testament to the damp, dark grave it clawed its way out of. But the most defining features are its posture and its movement. The Jiangshi doesn't walk. It doesn't run. It hops. Its arms are outstretched, rigid, as if reaching for something it can never grasp. Its legs are locked together, fused by the unbreakable grip of rigor mortis. This isn't a choice. It's a physical prison. The joints are so stiffened by death that bending them is impossible. So it moves with a series of jarring rhythmic hops, the silence of the night broken by the soft, repetitive thud of its feet hitting the ground. Imagine that sound getting closer and closer in the darkness. It's a sound that's almost comical in theory, but absolutely petrifying in reality. It's the sound of relentless, unnatural pursuit. And then there's the paper talisman, the yellow scroll with red ink markings stuck to its forehead. This is the linchpin of the entire phenomenon. This is the control mechanism. This slip of paper, known as a fu, is a Taoist seal, a prayer written by a priest to suppress the evil spirit within the corpse. As long as that talisman stays in place, the Jiangshi is dormant, frozen, a statue in mandarin robes. But if the wind catches it just right, if it gets snagged on a branch, or if a victim in a desperate struggle manages to knock it off, the eyes snap open, and the hunt begins. So why these specific, peculiar details? Why the Qing dynasty robes? Why the hopping? It's not random. Each detail is a thread in a much larger tapestry of history, fear, and folklore. The Qing dynasty official's uniform is a powerful symbol. The Qing dynasty, founded by the Manchu people from the north, ruled China from the mid-1600s to the early 1900s. For much of the Han Chinese population, it was a period of rule by outsiders, marked by strict social controls and, at times, brutal suppression. The official in his robes represented an authority that was often feared and resented. So, for this figure of authority to rise from the grave as a monstrous predator, it taps into a deep-seated historical anxiety. The oppressor, even in death, literally comes back to prey on the common people. It's a powerful, terrifying metaphor for historical trauma. The hopping, too, has a grim logic. Beyond the simple explanation of rigor mortis, it's a direct, horrifying echo of the corpse herders. Remember how they'd lash the bodies to bamboo poles? As the porters walked, the poles would flex, causing the corpses to hop up and down in a ghastly dance. The folklore took this practical, grim reality and twisted it into the monster's primary mode of transportation. The very method used to bring the dead home with dignity was perverted into the signature movement of a creature with no dignity at all, only a ravenous hunger. And what is that hunger for? It's not for blood. This is a crucial distinction that separates the Jiangshi from its Western counterpart, the vampire. The Jiangshi doesn't crave blood. It craves something far more fundamental. Craves qi. In traditional Chinese philosophy, qi is the life force, the vital energy that flows through every living thing. It's your breath, your warmth, your vitality, your very essence. The Jiangshi is a cold, dead thing devoid of its own qi. To sustain its unnatural existence, it must steal it from the living. It hunts by sensing the breath of its victims. That's why the number one piece of advice for surviving a Jiangshi attack is to hold your breath. It's said they're blind but can smell the living energy in your exhalations. The Jiangshi will drain your qi until you are as cold and lifeless as it is, leaving behind a husk. It's not just killing you, it's consuming your soul to fuel its own damnation. This makes the Jiangshi a unique kind of predator. It's not just a physical threat, it's a spiritual one. And to fight a spiritual threat, you need spiritual weapons. This is where the folklore equips the common person with a fascinating arsenal of supernatural defenses. The Taoist talisman is the most famous, the off switch for the monster. But what if you can't get close enough to stick one on its forehead? The lore provides other options. Glutinous, sticky rice is said to be a powerful deterrent. Thrown at a Jiangshi, it's believed to burn its flesh, and if ingested, can draw out the evil energy and purify the corpse from within. But it has to be sticky rice. Regular rice is useless. Mirrors are another powerful tool. In Chinese tradition, mirrors are believed to ward off evil spirits. The reflection of its own monstrous form is said to frighten the Jiangshi, forcing it to recoil. The sound of a handbell, specifically one used by Taoist priests, can disorient and control it. another echo of the corpse herders who used bells to guide their silent processions. Even the humble rooster plays a role. The crow of a rooster at dawn signals the end of the night and the coming of the sun's purifying light. This sound is anathema to the Jiangshi, a creature of darkness and yin energy. Hearing it will send the monster hopping frantically back to the darkness of its coffin. And the ultimate weapon? A sword carved from the wood of a peach tree. Peachwood holds immense spiritual significance in Taoism, believed to be the essence of the 5 elements and possessing a natural power over evil. A peachwood sword is one of the few things that can permanently destroy a Jiangshi, returning it to the true death it was meant to have. So we have a creature born from a fusion of practical realities and deep-seated fears. A hopping, chi-sucking corpse in the robes of a dead empire. A monster that can be frozen with a prayer, burned with rice, and frightened by its own reflection. It is a complex, layered entity, far more than a simple zombie. But this profile, this spotter's guide to the undead, only answers the what. It doesn't answer the far more disturbing question of how. What has to go so horribly wrong for a person to not just die, but to be twisted into one of these abominations? The answer lies in the moment of death itself. A moment where the soul's journey can be violently derailed by a dark confluence of improper burial, black magic, or a heart so filled with rage that it refuses to let go of the world. To understand how a Jiangshi is born, you first have to understand the Chinese concept of the soul. It's not a single unified entity like in the West. Instead, it's a duality, the hun and the pa. The hun is the ethereal soul, the part that contains our consciousness, our intellect, our personality. Upon death, the hun is meant to journey onward, to ascend to the heavens and face judgment before reincarnation. But the pa is different. The pa is the primal soul, the animal soul. It's tied to the physical body, governing our base instincts, our earthly desires. It's the part of you that feels hunger, fear, and aggression. When you die, the pa is supposed to dissipate, to return to the earth along with the flesh and bone it inhabited. The creation of a Jiangshi is, at its core, a catastrophic failure of this process. The celestial hun soul departs, but the earthly pa soul, for one reason or another, becomes trapped. It's locked inside a dead shell, unable to disperse. And a soul that cannot find its proper rest begins to fester. It curdles. The body, no longer governed by the higher consciousness of the hun, becomes a puppet to the base, animalistic instincts of the pa. It becomes an automaton driven by a single, overriding need, to consume the life force, the chi of the living, in a desperate, futile attempt to sustain its own unnatural existence. The most common cause of this spiritual short-circuit is an improper burial. In traditional Chinese culture, a funeral is not just a ceremony. It is a critical cosmic transaction. Every single detail is laden with profound significance, governed by the ancient principles of feng shui. The orientation of the grave, the date and time of the interment, even the materials of the coffin must be perfectly aligned with the flow of universal energies. A mistake, even a small one, can have horrifying consequences. Bury a body in a place with bad feng shui, where the natural chi of the earth is stagnant or malicious, and you risk trapping the pa soul. Bury them facing the wrong direction, and their spirit will not find the path to the afterlife. If the deceased is not buried at all, left to rot in the open, or if their grave is desecrated, the chances of reanimation skyrocket. The timing is just as crucial. Funerals are meticulously scheduled according to complex astrological and numerological calculations. To bury someone on an inauspicious day is to invite disaster. It's like trying to send a letter but putting it in the mailbox on a national holiday. It's not going anywhere. But in this case, the undelivered mail rots, festers, and eventually claws its way out of the box hungry. Even the moments leading up to the burial are fraught with peril. There's a widespread belief that if a cat, especially a black cat, were to leap over the coffin, its vital energy could jolt the corpse back to a semblance of life, animating it before the pa soul has had a chance to depart. Similarly, a bolt of lightning striking a grave is seen as a powerful enough conduit of raw, chaotic energy to reanimate the dead. These are acts of nature, tragic accidents that pervert the natural order. The body rises, but it is an empty thing, a walking corpse with no memory, no purpose save for the primal urge to consume. But what if the corruption isn't accidental? What if it's deliberate? This is where the story of the Jiangshi takes a far darker, more sinister turn. Taoist priests, the very figures meant to guide souls to the afterlife, are sometimes depicted as having the knowledge to do the exact opposite. A master of the darker, forbidden arts, a necromancer, could intentionally trap the soul within a corpse. Through perverse rituals using bells, yellow paper talismans inscribed with blood, and incantations that twist sacred rites into blasphemies, a sorcerer can raise a Jiangshi to be his personal slave, a tireless, unfeeling bodyguard, or a terrifying assassin that can't be killed by conventional means. Imagine a powerful general who wants an army that feels no pain and knows no fear, or a wealthy merchant who desires a guardian for his treasure that never sleeps. They might seek out a corrupt priest, one who has strayed from the path of balance and harmony, and commission the creation of a Jiangshi. The sorcerer would select a suitable corpse, often that of a strong man who died a violent death, and perform the profane ceremony, binding the corpse's reanimated spirit to his will. These man-made Jiangshi are often more controlled, more directed in their purpose, but they are no less an abomination. They are a testament to the depths of human ambition, and the willingness to defy the laws of heaven and earth for personal gain. Yet, there is a third path to becoming a Jiangshi, one that is perhaps the most terrifying of all. It requires no cosmic misalignment, no act of a sorcerer, comes from within. It is the path of pure, unadulterated emotion. A person who dies with a heart so completely consumed by hatred, a soul so boiling with the need for vengeance that it simply refuses to pass on. A soldier betrayed by his commander and left to die on the battlefield. A woman murdered by a jealous lover. A man wrongfully executed, whose last breath is a curse upon his accusers. In these cases, the sheer force of their rage, their grief, their burning desire for retribution, acts as an anchor. It latches onto the soul and chains it to the mortal coil with an unbreakable grip. The Hun soul may try to leave, but it is held fast by the gravity of this singular, all-consuming emotion. When this body rises, it is not an empty automaton or a sorcerer's puppet. It is a vessel of vengeance. It retains a sliver of its former self, a twisted, hateful memory of the wrong that was done to it. This type of Jiangshi is the most dangerous, the most intelligent, and the most relentless. It will not stop. It will not rest. It will hunt down those who wronged it in life with a supernatural fury, tearing through any who stand in its way. It is the ultimate manifestation of a grudge that is literally stronger than death itself. So you have these three foul streams, all leading to the same monstrous ocean: the tragic accident of an improper burial, the sinister machinations of a necromancer, and the terrifying power of a soul that will not let go of its own hate. And sometimes these streams converge. Imagine a man murdered, his heart burning for revenge, his body then buried in a place of terrible feng shui, only to be later discovered by a sorcerer who uses his dark arts to amplify the creature's rage and power. The result would be something truly unspeakable, a monster born of tragedy, forged in malice, and fueled by an eternal fire of vengeance. These are the nightmares that peasant farmers and emperors alike feared. Because once a Jiangshi is created, regardless of the method, it is unleashed upon the world of the living. And its very nature is anathema to life itself. Its existence is a perversion of the natural order, a walking, hopping insult to the cycle of life and death. When a Jiangshi rises, it is not with the cunning of a predator or the intelligence of a sentient being. It is driven by a single primal all-consuming instinct, the need to absorb the life force, the vital essence of the living. This life force is known as qi. To a Jiangshi, the warm, vibrant qi of a human being is like the scent of fresh bread to a starving man. It is an irresistible beacon in the cold, dead darkness of its own existence. So, how would you recognize one? If you were walking down a fog-shrouded path in rural China, what signs would tell you to turn and run? The first thing you'd notice isn't what you'd see, but what you'd hear. A rhythmic, heavy thud. A pause. Then another. Hut hut hut. It's an unnatural sound, lacking the scuffing, shuffling gait of a living person. This is the sound of the Jiangshi's signature locomotion, hopping. Its body is locked in the unyielding grip of rigor mortis. The joints are fused, the muscles petrified and hard as wood. It cannot bend its knees, it cannot swing its arms in a natural walking motion. To move, it must push off with both feet at once, launching its stiff corpse forward in a series of jarring hops. Its arms are perpetually outstretched, not in a menacing gesture like a movie monster, but because that is how they froze in death. The image is almost comical, until you realize the sheer, unnatural strength required to propel a dead body in such a way. until you realize that sound is getting closer. As it emerges from the gloom, its appearance is unmistakable and deeply tied to a specific period in Chinese history. Most classic depictions show the Jiangshi wearing the official uniform of a Qing dynasty mandarin. The ornate, dark robes, the round-topped hat with a red tassel. Why? Because many of the most popular Jiangshi stories were recorded and spread during the Qing dynasty, which lasted from the mid-1600s to the early 1900s. The image of a corrupted official, a figure of authority turned into a mindless monster, was a potent social commentary. It represented a fear of the old ways, of a decaying bureaucracy that preyed upon the common people even after death. This wasn't just a monster. It was a political statement, a symbol of dread wrapped in the silks of a fallen empire. But the fine clothes are a mockery stained with grave dirt and decay. The skin of the Jiangshi is a ghastly greenish white, the color of mold blooming on flesh. In some accounts, its body is covered in fine white or greenish hair, a result of a supernatural fungus that thrives on its dead tissues. Its fingernails are long, blackened, and sharp as claws, having never stopped growing. Its hair, too, is long and unkempt, often still tied in the traditional queue hairstyle of a Qing-era man, a long single braid hanging down its back. And then there's the smell, a cloying, sickly sweet odor of rot and damp earth, so thick you can almost taste it. It's a primal warning, a scent that screams of things that should have stayed buried. The air around a Jiangshi grows unnaturally cold, the kind of deep, penetrating chill that seems to emanate directly from the creature itself, leaching the warmth from the world around it. This creature is, for all intents and purposes, blind. Its eyes may be open, milky and vacant, but they do not see. It navigates the world not by sight, but by a far more terrifying sense. It senses life. It hunts by feeling the flow of breath. Your quietest, most terrified exhale is a roaring bonfire to a Jiangshi. It can sense the puff of warm air from your lips and nostrils from a remarkable distance, and it will home in on that sign of life with relentless, single-minded purpose. This is the core of its vampiric nature. The Jiangshi doesn't drink blood in the Western sense. It doesn't need to bite you to feed. When it gets close enough, it leans in, its cold, dead face inches from yours, and it inhales. It breathes in your breath, and with it, your qi. It is a spiritual parasite, draining your very essence, the energy that animates you, that makes you you. Victims who have their qi drained feel an overwhelming weakness, a profound cold, and a rapid decline in health. A full feeding leaves the victim a lifeless husk, and worse, their own corpse is now primed to rise as a new Jiangshi, infected by the malevolent energy of its killer. The curse is contagious. One Jiangshi loose in a village can quickly become a dozen. So how do you survive an encounter with a creature that can't be reasoned with, can't be intimidated, and hunts you with every breath you take? The key lies in understanding its limitations. Its blindness is a critical weakness. The ancient wisdom passed down through generations says that the most immediate, desperate defense is to hold your breath. If you can stop breathing, you become invisible to it. You vanish from its senses. Imagine the sheer terror. Standing perfectly still in the dark, the thudding of the hopping corpse growing louder and louder, its foul stench filling your nostrils, as you fight every screaming instinct in your body that's telling you to gasp for air. You have to stay silent, motionless, and breathless, praying it hops past you, a rigid specter of death in the moonlight. But holding your breath is a temporary, last-ditch solution. For those who actively hunted these creatures, or for families who feared a deceased loved one might return, more permanent methods were required. This is where the iconic yellow paper talisman comes in. You've seen it in movies and art. A rectangular strip of yellow paper, covered in calligraphy written with red or black ink. This is a fu, a Taoist charm. The specific characters written on it are a spiritual command, a celestial edict. When this talisman is slapped onto the forehead of a Jiangshi, it's like flipping a switch. The creature freezes instantly. The malevolent spirit animating the corpse is suppressed by the holy power of the charm, rendering the body immobile. It will remain perfectly still, arms outstretched, until the talisman is removed. This is the first line of defense, the tool of the Taoist priest, the expert monster hunter. They were the masters of the supernatural, the ones people called when the thudding started outside their village walls. But a talisman is just a pause button, not a stop button. Buys you time. It doesn't destroy the creature. And if that piece of paper should fall off, blown away by the wind or knocked off in a struggle, the nightmare begins again. To truly put a Jiangshi to rest requires far more drastic and far more dangerous measures. It requires an understanding of metaphysics, of the 5 elements, and of tools that could purify a soul and obliterate a body. Knowing how to spot one, how to hide from one, and how to temporarily stop one. That's the beginning of the lesson. The final exam is surviving the night. And for that, you need the weapons of a true ghostbuster, ancient tools forged in folklore and fire. And the most fundamental of these tools, the cornerstone of this ancient arsenal, is the one you've already seen, the yellow paper talisman. But to think of it as just a piece of paper is like calling a surgeon's scalpel just a knife. It's an instrument of immense spiritual power, and every single part of it is critical. The paper itself is almost always yellow, a color that in Taoist cosmology represents the earth, the center, a point of stability and control. It's the perfect medium to ground a restless spirit. Then you have the ink. It's not just any ink. It's a vibrant blood-red paste made from cinnabar. Cinnabar is a mercury ore, a substance believed by ancient Taoist alchemists to hold immense spiritual energy, a concentration of pure yang, the active, bright, masculine force of the universe. This potent red ink is used to draw the sacred characters, the incantations that act as a spiritual command. These aren't just random squiggles. They are specific, powerful spells passed down through generations of Taoist masters. The command might be to freeze, to return to rest, or to seal the soul within its decaying prison. The priest or sorcerer will often bite the tip of their finger, adding a drop of their own blood to the ink, infusing the spell with their personal life force, their own qi. When this talisman, charged with earth energy and life, is slapped onto the forehead of a Jiangshi, it's not just sticking a note on a fridge. It's like hitting a computer with a crippling virus. It overrides the corrupted programming of the corpse, severing the connection between the hateful spirit and the body it pilots. The body goes limp, the spell holds it in stasis, and for a moment you are safe. But these talismans are temporary. Rain can wash away the ink. A strong wind can tear the paper. And if the Jiangshi is powerful enough, its own malevolent aura can literally burn the spell away. It's a magical stopgap, not a permanent solution. For that, you need to build a fortress. And your first brick in that fortress is glutinous rice. Sticky rice. Seems mundane, something you get with your takeout order. But in the supernatural world, it's a wall of fire. To the Jiangshi, uncooked glutinous rice is like acid. It's believed that the rice, a staple food that sustains life, is so packed with pure life energy that it's anathema to the undead. It purifies and burns away necrotic energy. A Jiangshi forced to hop through a pile of it would have the flesh sizzle and rot from its feet. You don't throw it at them. You create barriers. You pour a thick, unbroken line of it across every doorway, every windowsill. It creates a magical perimeter, a line the dead cannot cross. But there's a catch, and it's a big one. It must be glutinous rice. Using regular long-grain rice would be like trying to stop a bullet with a tissue. Legend has it that a corner-cutting priest once used regular rice to save money, and the Jiangshi just hopped right through it, leading to a village-wide massacre. Details matter when you're fighting monsters. If the rice is your wall, the next item is your automated turret. A rooster's cry. Or more potently, it's blood. Roosters are the heralds of the dawn. They are living alarm clocks for the sun. Their entire being is tied to the coming of the light and the banishment of the night. Their crow is believed to be saturated with yang energy, a sound that can startle and disorient a Jiangshi. But their blood is yang in its most concentrated liquid form. A weapon of last resort is to coat a weapon in rooster's blood, or even flick it directly onto the Jiangshi's skin. Where it touches, it sears the creature's flesh like a white-hot brand, causing it unimaginable pain and disrupting its spiritual matrix. Now, you have your defenses. You have your temporary paralysis spell, your magical minefield of rice, your spiritual acid. But the sun is still hours from rising, and the monster is adapting. It's time to go on the offensive. It's time to pick up a sword. Not just any sword. A sword carved from the heartwood of a peach tree. In Chinese mythology, the peach tree is the tree of life. Its fruit grants immortality. Its wood is a natural conduit for positive, righteous energy. Gods like the Monkey King famously stole the peaches of immortality from the celestial garden. This tree is a living weapon against the unnatural. A sword carved from its wood, often inscribed with the same kind of Taoist spells as the talismans, becomes a Jiangshi's worst nightmare. It doesn't just cut flesh. It cuts the unholy energy that animates the corpse. A normal sword might hack off an arm, and the arm would just keep flailing. A peachwood sword strikes the creature's chi, its spiritual essence. A clean strike can disrupt the flow of negative energy so completely that the corpse collapses permanently. It's the equivalent of a stake through a vampire's heart, a silver bullet for a werewolf. It's the definitive monster-slaying weapon. But what if you can't get close enough to use a sword? You need a ranged weapon, and for that you use a mirror, specifically a bagua mirror. This is an octagonal mirror, often framed with the 8 trigrams of the I Ching, a foundational text of Chinese philosophy. This isn't about showing the Jiangshi its own ugly reflection. This mirror doesn't reflect light. It reflects evil. When a Jiangshi looks into it, it sees the raw, undiluted hatred and spiritual corruption that fuels it. It's a blast of self-loathing so powerful it can stun the creature, even cause it to flee in terror from its own monstrous nature. The bagua mirror is a weapon of psychological, or rather spiritual warfare. You hold it up, and the monster is forced to confront the abyss inside itself. There are other more esoteric tools. A special handbell, like the ones used by the corpse-herding priests, can be rung at a specific frequency to confuse the Jiangshi's simple mind, making it easier to control or lead into a trap. There's also the carpenter's ink line, a tool used to snap straight lines on wood. When filled with ink mixed with rooster's blood and blessed by a priest, that snap line becomes a razor-thin supernatural barrier, a tripwire that can burn and repel a Jiangshi with shocking force. So there you are, standing in a room, barricaded with lines of sticky rice. In one hand you hold a peachwood sword, humming with sacred energy. In the other, a bagua mirror, ready to turn the monster's evil back on itself. You have talismans in your pocket and vials of rooster's blood on your belt. You are no longer the victim. You are the hunter. You have the knowledge, the tools, the complete Ghostbusters kit passed down through centuries of fighting these things. You are ready for the monster to break down the door. But as you stand there, listening to the relentless rhythmic thump, thump, thump from the other side, a far more terrifying thought enters your mind. All of these weapons, all of this lore is designed to fight the classic stiff-bodied hopping terror. It's an arsenal built to fight a known enemy. But what if the thing on the other side of the door isn't the classic model? What if, over the centuries, the plague of the Jiangshi has done what all plagues do? What if it has mutated? What if it has evolved? The truth is, the hopping vampire is just the beginning. It's the foot soldier. And you're about to find out what its more terrifying, more intelligent, and far, far deadlier cousins are capable of. According to the hidden scriptures of Taoist masters, the common hopping vampire you see in the movies, the one with the paper talisman on its forehead, is merely the beginning. It's the larval stage, a freshly animated corpse, stiff with rigor mortis, its soul barely clinging to its decaying shell. This is known as a white Jiangshi or a bai jiang, not because its skin is white, but because it's often covered in a fine white to grayish fur of mold and fungus. It's a walking biohazard, a shambling plague vector. Its movements are clumsy, its intelligence is zero. It operates on pure primal instinct, the thirst for qi, for the breath of life. This is the creature that can be stopped by sticky rice, that can be confused if you hold your breath, that can be frozen by a well-placed talisman. It is, for all intents and purposes, a problem with a known solution. But a corpse does not stay fresh forever. If a white Jiangshi is left undisturbed, if it successfully feeds and absorbs enough life essence, it begins to change. The white mold gives way to something darker. Its fur becomes coarse, matted, and black as pitch. This is the black Jiangshi, the heijiang. The stiffness of rigor mortis has faded, replaced by a terrifying, unnatural flexibility. It can still only hop, but its hops are faster, stronger, covering more ground. Its nails and teeth have elongated, hardening into razor-sharp points that can tear through wood and flesh with equal ease. The simple tricks that worked before are now less effective. A handful of sticky rice might slow it, but it won't stop it. Holding your breath might hide you for a moment, but the black Jiangshi's senses are sharper. It can smell the life force in your blood, feel the heat radiating from your skin. It's more aggressive, more relentless. To defeat a black Jiangshi, you need more than simple folk remedies. You need consecrated weapons, peachwood swords, the intervention of a trained priest. It has graduated from a nuisance to a serious threat. But what if it continues to feed? What if it survives for decades, even a century, absorbing the qi from countless victims, absorbing the very essence of the earth and moonlight? Then it undergoes its next horrifying metamorphosis. The black fur falls away, revealing skin with a sickly, greenish sheen, like moss growing on a tombstone. This is the green Jiangshi or Lu Jiang, and this is where the rules of the game change completely. The green Jiangshi no longer hops. Its body has absorbed so much energy that it has overcome rigor mortis entirely. It can run. It can leap incredible distances, scaling walls and bounding over rooftops. Its skin is as tough as leather, capable of deflecting blades. It is no longer a mindless eating machine. A flicker of cruel, cunning intelligence has ignited behind its dead eyes. It can set traps, can learn your patterns. It can anticipate your movements. It remembers the faces of those who have tried to stop it. It is immune to many of the lesser Taoist spells. The sound of a rooster's crow or a peal of thunder might startle it, but it won't send it fleeing back to its grave. This creature is a true predator. It hunts, and it enjoys it. Even more terrifying is a specific variant that can arise, known as the Maojiang or hairy Jiangshi. This isn't necessarily a linear progression, but a horrifying offshoot. It's a Jiangshi so consumed by resentment and negative energy that its hair continues to grow at an explosive rate, covering its entire body in a thick, dark mane. This isn't just hair. It's a supernatural armor. Swords can't cut it. Fire barely singes it. Each strand is imbued with its dark power. Worse, it can control this hair, extending it like tendrils to ensnare its victims, pulling them into a suffocating embrace from which there is no escape. The hairy Jiangshi is a walking siege engine of pure hatred, a nearly indestructible brute that requires immense spiritual power to subdue. But all of these, the white, the black, the green, the hairy, are still bound by one fundamental law: gravity. They are of the earth. They walk, they run, they leap, but they are tethered to the ground. The true nightmare begins when a Jiangshi absorbs enough power, enough energy from the moon over centuries, that it breaks that final chain. It evolves into the Fei Jiang, the flying Jiangshi. Imagine it. You've barricaded the doors. You've laid down lines of sticky rice. You've hung mirrors and wind chimes. You're huddled in the dark with your family, holding your breath, praying for the sun to rise. You feel safe. You've protected yourself from the thing that hops in the darkness outside. But then you hear a sound. It's not at the door. It's not at the window. It's a dry, leathery flapping sound coming from above. You look up at the roof, and you see the tiles begin to tremble. Dust rains down. A single tile is pushed aside, then another. And through the hole, a pair of crimson eyes stare down at you from the night sky. The flying Jiangshi has shed its earthly form. It's a gaunt, skeletal creature with vast bat-like wings of desiccated skin. It no longer needs to hunt on the ground. It soars through the night, a silent angel of death, spotting the life force of its victims from hundreds of feet in the air. How do you fight that? How do you run from something that can descend from the sky like a hawk? All the old rules are worthless. Holding your breath is useless when it can see the heat of your body from above. Talismans are useless if you can't get close enough to place one on its head. A peachwood sword is just a stick against a threat that never lands. The flying Jiangshi represents a total escalation of terror. It is not just a corpse. It is a fully realized demonic entity. It is intelligent, it is strategic, and it is a master of its domain, the night sky. It is said that a flying Jiangshi can drain the life from an entire village in a single night, leaving behind a silent ghost town of desiccated husks by sunrise. It is the boogeyman that even other monsters fear. And yet, even this winged horror is not the final form. It is a terrifying plateau, but it is not the peak. The Taoist masters wrote of creatures that evolved beyond even the Fei Jiang. Creatures that shed their monstrous appearance, that learn to walk among humans, to speak, to think, to plot. What happens when a Jiangshi accumulates so much power that it can control the elements? What happens when it stops being a mere predator and becomes a king? Or a god? The ancient texts give this final evolution a name. They call it a Ba, a demon king. And its appearance doesn't just signal your death. It signals the death of the land itself. It is a walking drought, a harbinger of famine and plague. And it is the absolute apex of the Jiangshi's evolutionary chain. But a drought demon isn't born. It's made. The transformation from a simple, stiff corpse into a walking ecological disaster is a long and terrifying process. And for a Jiangshi to reach that level of power, it needs one thing above all else: to remain undisturbed. For centuries, it must lie in its grave slowly, silently absorbing the yin energy of the moon and the earth, its hatred and resentment festering like a poison. As it grows in power, the very ground around its coffin becomes sterile. Grass withers. Trees become brittle and die. The soil turns to dust. This creature isn't just undead. It is anti-life. Its aura is so potent, so suffused with negative energy, that it actively repels the life-giving essence of water and sun. Rain clouds will literally part to avoid passing over its resting place. Rivers and streams will dry up. It is a black hole for vitality. This concept isn't some new invention from a horror movie. The idea of a corpse causing a drought is ancient, woven deep into the fabric of Chinese history and folklore. Long before the Qing dynasty gave us the hopping vampire in the official's robes, there was the myth of Nuba, the daughter of the Yellow Emperor himself. In the ancient text, the classic of mountains and seas, she is described as a goddess of drought. When she appeared, the rains would cease and the land would crack and burn. To stop the famine she caused, people would perform rituals to either appease her or drive her away. In many local traditions, if a severe drought hit, the first thing people would do is start searching for improperly buried corpses. They believed that the restless spirit, the unhallowed dead, was poisoning the land from below. They would exhume the body, sometimes beating it, sometimes burning it to ashes, all in a desperate attempt to break the curse and bring back the rain. So the Ba isn't just the final boss of the Jiangshi world. It's the terrifying fusion of two of humanity's oldest fears, the fear of the dead returning, and the fear of nature turning against us. It's the ghost of your angry grandfather, but now with the power to starve an entire province. But this raises a critical question. If the ultimate goal for a Jiangshi is to lie undisturbed and evolve, how did they become famous for moving around? For hopping. The image of the hopping vampire is so specific, so peculiar, it had to come from somewhere. It didn't just appear out of thin air. And the answer lies in one of the most bizarre and fascinating folk practices in all of China. The corpse herders of Jiangshi. Imagine the scene. It's the 1700s. You're a young man from a poor, rural village in Hunan province. To support your family, you travel hundreds of miles away to find work. It's a hard life, and one day tragedy strikes. An accident, a disease, and you die far from everyone you've ever known. For your family, this is a double tragedy. Not only have they lost a son, but your spirit is now trapped, unable to find its way home. According to tradition, if your body isn't buried in your hometown, your soul will be a lost, wandering ghost for eternity, never finding peace, never receiving the proper rights from its descendants. But your family is poor. They can't afford a wagon, a cart, or the exorbitant fees to transport a body over such a long distance. It's a heartbreaking, impossible situation. But then they hear a rumor, a whisper of a strange and secret profession. They hear of the Gan Shiren, the men who drive corpses. These were said to be Maoshan priests, Taoist sorcerers who specialized in the art of necromancy. For a hefty fee, they would travel to where the body was and perform a dark, secret ritual. They would wait for the dead of night, then attach a yellow paper talisman, inscribed with a magic spell, to the forehead of the corpse. They would strike a gong, or ring a small handbell, and chant the incantation. And then the corpse would stir. Its joints, locked by rigor mortis, would creak and pop, and slowly, stiffly it would rise. The priest would then lead a procession of these reanimated dead, sometimes one, sometimes a dozen, all in a single file line. He would walk at the front, ringing his bell to a steady rhythm, a sound that both guided the corpses and warned the living to stay away. The Jiangshi, unable to bend their knees, would move in the only way they could, by hopping. Hop, 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 through the dark mountain passes and forgotten country roads, a silent, grim parade of the dead making their final journey home. They traveled only at night for two reasons. First, to avoid terrifying the locals. The sound of that lonely bell in the dead of night was a clear signal. Lock your doors, close your windows, and do not look outside. To witness the corpse procession was to invite terrible misfortune. The second reason was for the corpses themselves. If the reanimated dead were exposed to sunlight, the priest's spell would be broken. They would collapse, or worse, the sun's energy could turn them into a truly malevolent, uncontrollable Jiangshi. This practice, known as Jiangshi corpse driving, became a legendary part of Chinese folklore. It provided a supernatural solution to a very real-world problem. But was it real? Historians and skeptics, of course, have a different theory, and it's just as fascinating. The most likely explanation is that the corpse herding was an elaborate and brilliant smuggling operation. The priest was a smuggler, and the corpses? They weren't dead at all. In one version of the theory, the bodies were hollowed out and filled with illegal goods like salt, weapons, or opium. In another, more popular theory, there was no body. The entire procession was a performance. Two men would carry a single corpse, tied upright to long bamboo poles that rested on their shoulders. As they walked, the flexible bamboo would bob up and down, making the body tied between them appear to be hopping on its own. The lead man, disguised as a priest, would ring a bell to coordinate their steps in the dark and to scare off any potential witnesses who might expose their secret. It was a perfect cover. After all, what kind of bandit is going to rob a spooky Taoist priest leading a parade of the undead? Whether it was real magic or a clever hoax, the legend of the corpse herders burned itself into the cultural consciousness. It provided the definitive, iconic image of the Jiangshi, the stiff limbs, the Qing dynasty officials' robes, which were the common burial clothes of the time, the yellow paper talisman on the forehead, and most importantly, the hop. The story took the abstract fear of a reanimated ancestor and gave it a body. It gave it a specific way of moving. It explained how a creature with rigor mortis could travel across the country. This practice, real or imagined, is the bridge between the ancient drought demon and the modern movie monster. It created the archetype. It established the Taoist priest not just as a creator of Jiangshi, but as their master, the one who holds the leash, the one who knows the secrets to controlling the dead. And that implies a terrifying thought. If they know how to control them, they must also know their weaknesses. They must know how to stop them. Because for every priest who could lead a corpse home for a peaceful burial, there had to be another who faced a creation that went horribly, violently wrong. A talisman that fell off. A spell that was broken. A Jiangshi that suddenly remembered its thirst and turned on its master. So how do you survive that? When the hopping stops and the hunt begins, what in the world can you do to protect yourself from a creature that cannot die because it's already dead? The first and most critical rule of survival is a simple one, yet almost impossible to follow in a moment of pure terror. You must not breathe. The Jiangshi is blind. It navigates the world of the living not by sight, but by spirit. It hunts for the warm, living essence of a person, their qi, their life force, and the most potent expression of that life force is the breath you exhale. So you hold it. You hide in a closet, in the dark, your heart hammering against your ribs like a trapped bird. You hear the stiff, rhythmic thud of its hops just outside the door. Stops. The silence is somehow worse. You know it's listening, sensing, trying to pinpoint the faint flicker of your life in the darkness. Your lungs are on fire, screaming for air, but you can't give in. One gasp, one shuddering exhale, and it will know exactly where you are. The door will splinter, and it will be over. But you can't hold your breath forever. You need a better plan. You need tools. And thankfully, centuries of terror have given rise to a very specific and very strange arsenal. Let's say you manage to slip away. The first place you run isn't for the gun cabinet. You run to the kitchen. You're looking for one thing: glutinous rice, sticky rice. To the Jiangshi, this common foodstuff is like acid. It is believed to have the power to absorb negative energy and spiritual defilement. A handful thrown at the creature will allegedly burn its skin. A circle of it poured on the floor creates a barrier it cannot cross. If you're unlucky enough to be scratched or bitten, a poultice of chewed sticky rice applied to the wound is said to be the only thing that can draw out the corpse poison before it takes root and turns you into one of them. Regular rice won't do. It has to be the glutinous kind, the kind that holds things together. A fitting weapon against a creature whose very existence is a perversion of unity. A soul trapped unwillingly in a body that refuses to rest. Your next line of defense might be even stranger. A mirror, particularly a bagua mirror, the octagonal Taoist charm often seen on buildings to ward off evil. The lore states that a Jiangshi is terrified of its own reflection. Imagine the horror. For a being trapped between worlds, a mindless shell animated by resentment, to be confronted with a perfect image of its own monstrous decay. It's a shock to its corrupted spiritual system. It sees the rot, the rigor mortis, the soulless eyes, and it recoils in abject terror. It's a moment of horrifying self-awareness forced upon a creature that thrives in mindless instinct. The mirror doesn't just show an image, it reflects truth. And the truth of what the Jiangshi has become is a weapon more powerful than any blade. But if you do need a blade, make sure it's made of the right material. Forget steel. You need wood. Specifically, peach wood. In Chinese folklore, the peach tree is a divine plant, a symbol of immortality and a powerful ward against evil. Its branches, its blossoms, and especially its wood are imbued with a sacred, pure energy, a concentrated dose of yang to counter the Jiangshi's deathly yin. A sword carved from the wood of a peach tree is one of the few things that can physically harm the creature, striking not just its flesh but the evil animating it. Legend tells of a massive peach tree in the spirit world, whose branches stretched for thousands of miles. Two gods stood guard there, and they would feed any evil spirits they found to a host of tigers. That ancient protective power is said to reside in every peach tree, making its wood the bane of all things unholy. Of course, the most iconic defense is the one you've seen in every movie, the yellow paper talisman. That strip of paper with black or red calligraphy, slapped squarely on the Jiangshi's forehead, stopping it dead in its tracks. This is not just a piece of paper. It is a fu, a Taoist magical directive. It's a prayer, a command, and a weapon all in one, written by a priest who understands the flow of spiritual energy. The symbols on it are a direct order, a celestial injunction that overrides the Jiangshi's own motor functions. It essentially reimposes the laws of nature onto a creature that is defying them. The talisman acts like a spiritual circuit breaker, cutting the connection between the resentful soul and the corpse it inhabits. The body is still there, but the animating force is suppressed, frozen. The Jiangshi becomes an inanimate object once more. But be warned, the power of these talismans is finite. A strong gust of wind, a trickle of rain, or even the creature's own festering qi can cause the paper to fall off. And the moment it does, the hopping begins again. There are other, more obscure defenses, whispered about in old texts. The sound of a handbell, specifically a Taoist ritual bell, can confuse and disorient them. A thread of black ink, made from specific materials and drawn across a doorway, can act as a barrier. The seeds of the jujube or red date are said to be effective if you can get 7 of them into the 7 apertures of the Jiangshi's head, though how you'd manage that is anyone's guess. And like many creatures of the night, from Eastern Europe to East Asia, the Jiangshi fears the coming of the dawn. The crow of a rooster is a death knell for its nocturnal hunt. The first rays of sunlight will burn it, forcing it back into the darkness of its coffin or cave to wait for the next night. All of these methods, however, are temporary solutions. They are ways to survive the night. They are ways to stall, to escape, to protect yourself. But they don't solve the problem. A frozen Jiangshi is still a Jiangshi. A warded-off Jiangshi will simply return. So how do you destroy one for good? How do you end the curse? The answer is as primal as the creature itself: fire. You cannot kill what is already dead, but you can destroy the vessel. Cremation is the final, definitive answer. Burning the corpse to ash is the only way to guarantee that it will never rise again. It's a ritual of purification, a way of forcibly returning the body to the elements and, in doing so, finally severing the soul's tormented connection to it. Only in the flames can the spirit be truly released, and the unnatural cycle of undeath be broken. It's a violent end to a tragic existence. So we have the creature's origins, its bizarre appearance, its terrifying abilities, and a complete survival guide on how to ward it off, freeze it, and ultimately destroy it. We understand the monster in intimate, horrifying detail. But in a way, all of this is just the surface. It's the what, not the why. The truly fascinating part isn't just the monster itself, but the story of the monster. How did these scattered folk beliefs, these regional superstitions about restless spirits and corpse handlers, coalesce into one of Asia's most iconic and terrifying creatures? How did the Jiangshi hop from the misty mountains and rice paddies of ancient China, across the sea, and directly into the heart of modern pop culture, influencing everything from movies to video games around the world? The physical monster can be stopped with sticky rice and peachwood, but the idea of the monster, that's a different story, and its journey is perhaps even more incredible than the creature itself. To understand how this creature of Chinese folklore leaped into global consciousness, we have to look to the 1980s. Specifically, to the neon-drenched, hyper-energetic world of Hong Kong cinema. This was a golden age, a creative explosion that sent waves across the entire planet. And in 1985, a film landed that would forever define the Jiangshi for generations to come, Mr. Vampire. This movie was a cultural phenomenon. It wasn't just a horror film. It was a brilliant, chaotic, and utterly captivating blend of slapstick comedy, incredible kung fu acrobatics, and genuine supernatural dread. It took all the disparate threads of Jiangshi folklore, the stiff limbs, the Qing dynasty robes, the fear of breath, and codified them into a cinematic language everyone could understand. The Taoist priest, played by the legendary Lam Qing, wasn't just a mystic. He was an action hero, a supernatural exterminator with a utility belt of peachwood swords, ink-drawn talismans, and bags of sticky rice. Mr. Vampire established the rules. We learned, along with the bumbling apprentices, that you stop a Jiangshi by holding your breath. Why? Because it can't see you. It senses your life force, your qi, through your breath. We learned that a yellow paper talisman with a blood ink spell, slapped onto its forehead, could freeze it in its tracks. We saw firsthand the power of glutinous rice to draw out its evil energy, and the devastating effect of a peachwood sword. This film and its many sequels and imitators created a whole new genre, the Jiangshi comedy horror. It was a formula that worked perfectly. The tension of a silent, hopping monster hunting you in the dark could be instantly shattered by a perfectly timed comedic slip-up or a dazzling fight sequence. It was this unique combination that made the Jiangshi so exportable. It wasn't just a terrifying monster from a foreign land. It was the star of an action comedy. It was entertaining. The wave of Hong Kong cinema reached shores far beyond Asia. In video arcades across America and Europe, kids were seeing these ideas bleed into the games they played. In 1994, the fighting game Darkstalkers introduced a character named Shinko. She was an undead ghost from China, wearing traditional robes, with long claws and a paper talisman on her hat. She was unmistakably a Jiangshi, but she was also a hero, fighting alongside vampires, werewolves, and mummies. The Jiangshi had officially joined the pantheon of global monsters. From there, the floodgates opened. Jiangshi appeared as enemies in countless video games, from the massively popular online world of Ragnarok Online to the sprawling fantasy of Genshin Impact, where the character Chi-Chi is a cute, childlike zombie who has to hop around to move. The monster had transformed. It could still be scary, but it could also be a playable character, a comic relief sidekick, or even an adorable companion. The rigid, terrifying corpse had become remarkably flexible. This pop culture osmosis works in subtle ways. The Jiangshi's influence can be seen in the DNA of other media, its unique blend of martial arts, and the supernatural-inspired creators around the world. Directors like Quentin Tarantino have famously spoken about the deep influence Hong Kong cinema had on their own work. Through this cultural exchange, the image of the hopping vampire, even if people didn't know its name, became a part of the global visual library. It was a monster that moved differently, that had different rules. It was a fresh take on the age-old story of the undead. But why did this particular monster resonate so deeply? Why the Jiangshi? Perhaps it's because it taps into fears that are both culturally specific and universally human. On one level, the Jiangshi is a product of Chinese tradition, specifically the importance of ancestor veneration and proper burial rites. The horror of the Jiangshi isn't just that a corpse is reanimated, it's that something has gone profoundly wrong. A ritual was performed incorrectly. A family failed in its duty to its ancestors. A soul has not been guided peacefully to the afterlife and is now trapped, corrupted between worlds. It's a horror born from a breakdown of tradition, a fear that a failure to respect the past will create a monster that literally comes back to destroy the future. But on a universal level, it's simply a fantastic monster. It combines the relentless, unthinking pursuit of a zombie with the supernatural cunning of a vampire. Its method of movement, the stiff, silent hopping, is deeply unsettling. It's unnatural. The silence is broken only by the rhythmic, soft thud of its feet hitting the ground, getting closer and closer in the dark. The requirement to hold your breath is a masterstroke of tension. It turns a basic biological function into a life-or-death struggle. How long can you stay silent while a monster blindly sniffs the air for your life force just inches away? It's a primal claustrophobic fear. Today, the Jiangshi is more alive than it ever was in its undead state. It has hopped far beyond the rural provinces of its origin. It lives in anime, in webcomics, in blockbuster video games, and in the fond memories of anyone who grew up watching late-night kung fu movies. It has been reinterpreted, remixed, and reimagined countless times. The story of the Jiangshi is ultimately a story about stories themselves. It shows how a local folk belief, born from the anxieties and traditions of a specific time and place, can be transformed by the power of media into a global icon. It's a testament to how culture travels, not as a static, unchanging artifact, but as a living, breathing idea that adapts to new environments and new audiences. The creature itself may be defined by its stiffness, its unbending rigor mortis, but the idea of the Jiangshi has proven to be the exact opposite. It is fluid, adaptable, and in its own way immortal. It leaped from dusty scrolls and village whispers onto the silver screen, through our television sets, and into the digital worlds in our hands. It is a perfect monster, a perfect villain, and even a perfect hero. The physical corpse can be stopped with a paper seal and a wooden sword. But the story of the hopping vampire is unstoppable. It will continue to hop through our collective imagination, forever suspended between life and death, tradition and modernity, terror and laughter. And it will never ever stop coming.